What's up, everybody? This is Camryn Tripplett with Silence the Shame, and you are tuned into Trey Allure TV.
Silence the Shame is a mental health movement that was started by Shanti Das.
Science is for an organization based out of Atlanta, founded by Shanti Das, and they are doing the important work of silencing the stigma and the shame around mental health within communities, in particular communities of color.
Mental health is something we're dealing with in our communities and we don't even know it. So we need to take the time, save a life, and silence the shame. We can do it. Let's do it together.
And V103 wants you to help us silence the shame in Atlanta and nationwide.
Hi everybody, it's your girl Lovely Key, and I'm here with Camryn, and she's from Silence the Shame, and we're gonna just talk about the foundation that she has and just a little bit about herself. So go ahead, introduce yourself, girl.
Hey everybody, my name is Camryn Tripplett. I am the communications manager for Silence the Shame.
And tell me about, what is Silence the Shame?
So Silence the Shame is a mental health awareness movement all about reducing the layers of shame and stigma as it relates to mental health and mental illness.
Okay, and it's more in the music industry, or is it just
Well, there are some roots in the music industry because our founder, Shanti Das, has about 27 years in the music industry of experience, and she was responsible for the marketing campaigns behind artists like Outkast, Usher, TLC, some of the Braxton sisters. So she was instrumental in a lot of the Atlanta artists that we know and love today. So because she had such a great career in the music industry and maintained a lot of those relationships, we have been able to utilize some of those relationships to get our message out. So it's funny you mentioned music because we are actually going to be at A3C on Thursday doing a panel. CeeLo Green signed up to do it, which is awesome.
Yeah.
We had David Banner at our last panel. So hip hop especially has been a driving force in what we're doing just because of our founders' relationship. But we always like to let people know that mental illness affects 1 in 4 people. 1 in 4 is 1 in 4 is 1 in 4. So it doesn't really matter what industry you're in or your race or your anything. It's really all about just what you've been through.
All right. Now, how did you yourself get involved in something like this?
So I met Shanti through networking, which is everything.
Oh yeah.
My mentor at the time, he was doing a podcast, and he told me about Shanti and told me about her amazing career. So I just knew that the podcast was going to be about parties with Diddy and just this a very extravagant life. But she actually opened up and talked about her own battles with depression, that she had just recently come to terms with the fact that her father completed suicide when she was only 8 months old.
Yeah, I was reading that too. It's crazy.
Yeah, and then I want to say 8 years before she left the industry, her mother was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. So that also just had a huge effect on her. And that's really what led to the depression and some of the suicidal ideation. So when she talked about all that in her podcast, I really connected because I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety around the age of 12 when my parents split up. And I pulled Shanti aside after the podcast and told her, hey, I would really love to be involved with what you're doing. So just let me know when you're ready to get started, because it was still just an idea that she had at the time. And, we exchanged information. We did a couple things here and there, not related to Silence the Shame. I was just helping her out with some of her own business, her other business endeavors. But fast forward 2 years later, my father passed away and I lost my job. So I was just at a loss, and I felt the depression creeping back in. So something was telling me to call Shanti, and I did. And I was just like, hey, I don't know if you remember me, but I don't have anything to do right now.
Right.
And I told her if she was still doing Silence the Shame, I would love to be involved and help out in any way that I could. And she had maybe just copyrighted and trademarked the logo for Silence the Shame and was ready to do a soft launch. So that was about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And we have been rolling ever since. So really, God and networking is why I'm even here today.
Now, it's funny that, because, well, it's not funny, but you mentioned, you were diagnosed when you were 12.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people, they think that, depression is something that you deal with, later on in life. And what do you think is, the stigma of, the depression surrounding, or just mental health in the Black community? Because I feel like it's never talked about. Like, we kind of like just put it under the rug. Like,
You know, one of the reasons why Silence the Shame is so important to me is because I understand that my experience is very different from other Black families. My mother also suffered from depression, and she was on medication. She was actively seeing a therapist. So when I told her that I was having thoughts of suicide, she knew what to do.
Right.
And I'm so thankful that I had those resources. But I grew up around an environment that I didn't, I was in my high school environment, I just didn't really feel comfortable talking about what I was going through. Though I did have a lot of support, I didn't talk to my friends. And even to this day, like, I love my friends from high school to death, but I don't talk to them about my mental illness like I talk to the ladies in this group. And it does have to just go with the whole, we are so quick to throw God at everything and just pray it away. But you can't not acknowledge the fact that God made doctors and education and the resources. So he's offering all these tools to help us. And, you know, I truly do believe therapy, spirituality, and sometimes medication is what you need.
right.
So, yeah.
And then my grandparents, like, they grew up in a whole different time. So, you know, their depression, what they were going through was totally different, you know, for what we do. Like, my grandma always said, we got new age problems because, you know, we have social media and things like that. So, like, if you can give advice to someone, you know, that's like struggling with trying to find themselves, or, you know, just battling their everyday life, like, what would you say to them?
I would say take time for yourself and identify the people in your life that you can be honest with, because that is important and extremely life-saving. I actually had a friend recently text me because their friend told them that they were feeling like ending it and they didn't know what to do. When I told her, I know it's scary to be having this conversation, but be blessed that this person cares about you and thinks enough of you to trust you with that information. So, like I said, self-care and just making sure that you have that support group, because I just turned 30, and my support group and the fact that there are things that I do for myself, like me getting my nails done, it seems very vain, but that is one of the biggest things I do for my self-care. Like, since my mom passed away, so about 12 years I've been getting my nails done religiously, and I'm just like, okay, everything else in my life is messed up. At least my hands are pretty.
Right.
So it's really the little things. Some people are super into yoga, other people like to read, other people like to journal. So it's just finding that thing that you really appreciate and that just brings you joy, and just hold on to that, especially when everything else seems to be coming down on you.
Right. Now, going back to the music industry, and you hear a lot about, you know, substance abuse and, you know, just artists that just don't know how to cope with, you know, being on the platform that they have. Do you think, you know, substance abuse is directly related to, you know, depression and just how they're coping with life in general?
Definitely. There's self-medication, and then there's also, you know, people who are addicted. And I think the self-medication is coming a lot with shame, because instead of going to seek a therapist and going to get on the right medication, it's like, oh, let me drink some alcohol, let me smoke this weed and or take these pills and just not think about it. When you're numbing the problem for a minute, but it's always going to be there. So, you know, it's sad with Mac Miller recently passing away.
I love him. Oh my gosh.
Like, that one really hurt, and it's just when you get to this level of celebrity and you just have access to everything and the people around you, it's like I said, that's why it's so important to make sure that you have a circle that you can trust, and they're going to keep you safe, because it's just, yeah, man, that was a really hard
and that goes to show you, like, money can't even fix the issues that people are going through.
I mean, Shanti walked away from a 6-figure income,
right,
because she wasn't happy. So money is definitely not everything.
The signs that you can, or that you know of, that, you know, just let someone know that, you know, maybe I need to go seek, professional help or talk to someone?
Well, for depression, the signs there are a lot of different signs, and it's also important to not confuse depression with grief, because like when somebody loses somebody very close to them, they're going to be depressed for a period of time. They're going to be sad. They're not going to want to get out of bed. They might lose their appetite. They might have a loss of interest in everything that they love to do. These are all signs of depression, but also signs of grief.
Right.
Now, the amount of time in which these symptoms last and the way that it affects your ability to carry on a normal life, like have relationships, have your job, and take care of yourself, like bathing, that's when you start to realize that, okay, this is becoming a real problem. Now, I'm not a clinician, so I can't tell you the exact amount of weeks or months that it takes to have the actual diagnosis of having depression. But with any mental illness, it is a extended period of time of certain symptoms that affect your daily ability to function.
Yeah. So how were you guys able to reach? Because I was watching one of Shanti's interviews on, I think it was The Breakfast Club. I love them. And she was talking about how when she first launched the Facebook page, that it got like 90 or a million or 90 million like impressions in that first day. And I did see, a lot of, celebrities here in Atlanta, shouting you guys out. How is she using her connections to be able to, push you guys forward? Like, are they like, inputting or, helping with awareness?
I mean, when I tell you, it's all been Shanti and the person that she has always been, being genuine and humble. So it has, like, May 5th when we launched, I can tell you right now, she was on her phone from sun up until sundown, texting everybody in her phone, asking them to tweet, asking them to post. So she is the main reason why we were able to get that reach. She worked her butt off, and it just so happens that her Rolodex has some really great people in there, and they responded. They didn't have to respond, but they did because of who she is. So it's just been just a true testament to who Shanti is as a person, and just the relationships that she's built over those decades where people just continue to shout out to her. She hadn't even spoken to Usher about what she was doing, and I remember talking to her around this time, and she was just, like, Cam, is this what we're supposed to be doing? And Usher tweets her, like, Shanti, I'm so proud of what you're doing, #silence the shame.
Right.
Hadn't spoken in years. And she was just like, like, my friends are watching me.
Yeah.
And,
that's amazing to get that support. I think that's what's gonna, initially, like, help just all around. Like, when you get support from people, it makes your purpose, like, so much better. Even though you might not see it, but everyone else does.
Right.
I think that's amazing.
And, like, David Banner, he came to our anniversary text-a-thon just to, be there. And then he was like, oh, sure, I'll do your panel. So he was on our panel the next week. And then he's on the second panel for us just a few weeks ago. So, these celebrities, they show up for us. We randomly were with Carrie Hilson in Bermuda, and she did a drop for us and agreed to be on a panel with us and chose our platform to be the first time she spoke about her break from the industry.
Wow.
So it's just been really amazing. Michelle Williams coming to speak to us on our podcast, which was actually coincidentally maybe a few weeks before she came public with her own battles and checked herself into a facility, which was the best thing she could have done. And I'm so glad that she opened up to her fans about it, because it's okay to get help. And I just really appreciate every celebrity that has signed on with us. Shanti was recently in LA. I don't want to say what organization because I don't want to mess it up, but she ran into that girl from Empire. I think Nicole from Empire? I don't know. I'm having a brain fart, but hey, she already did a drop for us, which is exciting, and We were recently at One Music Fest doing stuff with celebrities and just just dropped a new PSA with that. So we are just excited to continue to get more and more people wearing the shirts, talking about the movement. I recently got certified as a mental health first aid instructor, so that means I'm certified to train others in mental health first aid. So we are going to be offering free classes around the city. So that's one of the things that I'm very excited about, because while I appreciate people buying the shirts and supporting the movement and sharing our stuff, education comes first, and that's really going to be what helps to erase the stigma. So the more and more people we can educate just on the basics of mental health and mental illness, I think the better off we'll be.
Right. Now, if somebody wants to join the movement and, you know, be a part of your team, how can they like reach out to you and, you know, be a part of that educating, you know, the masses about mental health and awareness?
Well, we have a few different things. If you are a college age student and you are in college, you can actually apply to be a campus ambassador, and you just fill out an application. The requirements are to put on 2 events per year, 1 per semester on campus with the counseling office, just to talk about shame and stigma around mental illness. Like, it can be a classroom of 5 people. We just want people to start talking.
Is that any college?
Any
or
college.
Any college?
Yeah, we don't discriminate. There's a misconception that Silence the Shame is like the Black mental health awareness movement, and that's not what we are. Yes, it started with us because there was a lack of that in our space, but like I said before, mental illness does not discriminate. 1 in 4 is 1 in 4 is 1 in 4. So we like to open up to everybody. So, and I'm hoping that with our college ambassador program, we can show that Silence the Shame is for everyone. And then we're also just building out a brand ambassador program. So if you go to our Instagram, there's a link tree, and there's actually an info form where you can sign up and just fill out some information, and you can click your areas of interest, because we have a podcast that we record. There are opportunities to be speakers on our panels. If you want to book Shanti for a paid speaking gig, there's ways to do that. So there are just a lot of different ways to get involved with us, just simply volunteering. We're always looking for grant writers. Literally anything I can think of as far as how to be involved with Silence the Shame is on this info form, and that is the easiest way. I personally manage that form, and Shanti as well sees it. So that is how our team is currently collecting people to help us out and just filtering through all of the requests, because there have been a lot.
Okay. So how many, like, if you can give like an estimate, like how many times a day does someone like reach out to you like, hey, like what is Silence the Shame, and how can I, you know, be involved? Like when you're like just walking your everyday, you know, just chilling.
It depends on what I'm wearing.
Right.
You know, I don't wear my Silence the Shame shirt that much anymore. And I definitely can help you out with that. I don't wear it that much anymore unless I'm doing an event, but my fiance will, like, I would say about like 50% of the week he's wearing a Silence the Shame shirt. Because I give him one like whenever we do something new. And if I'm with him, people are like, oh, what's Silence the Shame? And he's like, wow, my fiance right here. And he's like, oh, hey. So the brand recognition is there, which is great. Like I said, which is why I purposefully don't wear my shirt, because they recognize the brand and they recognize Shanti. Shanti's like, she can't go to certain places now without people recognizing her. So that's been interesting. But, you know, I'm always open and willing to talk about the movement, and I try to keep Silence the Shame stuff on me at all times, because I understand that the need is always going to be there, and it's one of those 24/7 type movements, so.
It's needed, so I definitely appreciate you, you know, coming to speak with me and even just giving us some background on what you guys do. I think it's an amazing company. If you guys want to, you know, reach out to her, they do have an Instagram page. I just recently followed them, so go ahead and follow them on Instagram and join the movement. Don't join the movement just to join it. Educate yourself. That's one of the main things. If you are going through something, please seek help. You may not know that you're going through it, but you just never know. Just go and talk to someone.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. Again, that's Silence the Shame on Instagram. We are Silence TH Shame on Facebook and Twitter. If you want to follow me personally, I'm CurlyCams88. You can get our teas, teasforgood.net, podcast, like literally everything you need to know about us is on our Instagram or silencetheshame.com. Oh, one more thing. If you'd like to make a donation, text silence to 707070 and you'll be prompted to make a donation, and that's powered by Pledgeling.
And that's Trey Allure TV. See you guys next time.